Hello, welcome back to the Gruber Motor Company live podcast. We're doing a consecutive podcast because the email we sent out actually had two dates, Tuesday and Wednesday. So we did one yesterday, and so we don't leave our viewers high and dry since they didn't get updated. We thought we would do a second one today and recap some of the points that we covered yesterday. Again, as always, send us your questions and we will entertain them as soon as we get them. What we spoke about, let me introduce myself first. I'm Pete Gruber, this is SV Valladares, and we are your hosts today for this podcast. To recap what we spoke about yesterday, we began with the Tesla Roadster parts situation. And even though there are only 2,400 of these cars made, about 2,000 left or so, there's still a community out there that is very much interested in continued support for their vehicles, which is something that we do here extremely well. So we are talking about parts challenges, and the first thing that we spoke about yesterday was that Tesla has been accused of not being responsible in keeping a parts inventory for the Roadster. And in all of our dealings with Tesla, it appears that that really was not the case, in that they took steps all throughout post-production to maintain parts inventories. In fact, they had hired one individual that actually over-ordered, and that was the reason that there was some scrapping taking place for a while because they had too many Roadster parts. And that's where the legend comes from, that Tesla was irresponsible, that they filled up dumpsters, and now we have a shortage.
Correct.
So the other bright spot in this is that Tesla is continuing support for the Roadster, so much so that they are actually buying back their original Roadster cars and parting them out. We spoke about the upside and downside of that. And the obvious upside is that with a shrinking pool of vehicles available that are going collectible, as they thin the herd, they are becoming even more collectible because they're becoming more rare. And the second benefit, of course, is the resupplying of parts at the service center level. And Tesla has done a pretty good job of keeping the service center stocked with key Roadster parts at this point. Are there any questions so far?
None yet. So please, guys, if you guys are joining in, just ask away any questions you would like us to answer. I will be more than happy to answer them all. As today would be just pretty much a Q&A for us today. So please feel free to ask anything you like, even if it's Roadster related, Tesla related, or just even personal questions about us. I mean, that's fine. I would like for you guys to get to know us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there anything you guys missed from the yesterday?
We're still going through it. The second part of this parts program was, or discussion, that some parts cannot be effectively harvested and used on cars. And we discussed a few of those. One of them was the AC condenser assembly, which sits in the front of a Roadster. It's pointless to take these out of used cars and put them into cars that need them because it's a wear item, especially in the areas where there's a lot of moisture. We had one in the UK a year ago or so that actually had pinholes in it because of all of the debris, leaves that were collecting on top of the condenser. It sits at a 45-degree angle in the front of the car. And eventually it corroded and there were leaks in that condenser. So that is a part that we have successfully sourced. And we spoke a bit about what our role is with Tesla. We assist them with finding and resupplying hard-to-find Roadster parts.
Correct.
And that was one of the successful ones that we were able to have the original vendor recreate. The original batch we bought, we flushed out fairly quickly. We're currently out of stock, but there is a large shipment in process, which will be here within about 6 to 8 weeks. Some of the other parts that really are not reusable, floor mats. A used floor mat is a used floor mat. We actually were able to find the original vendor that made the Tesla floor mat with the eyelets. It has the white Tesla lettering in a relief on that floor mat. And we will shortly have a supply of those in inventory for anybody that wants to replace their worn floor mats and get the original OEM version.
That would be amazing to have.
Mm-hmm.
We do have a question here by Jim Rustler 212. He says, can you talk about more Model S battery upgrade options, say such as bringing in a 75 kilowatt battery for Gruber install for the customer? He also says, I've contemplated buying a battery pack, say like eBay, but not sure what my options are besides purchasing Tesla 90 kilowatt battery for $21,000.
Okay. The eBay batteries, of course, pose some risk. The origin of the battery is often murky, and the quality of the battery, how old it is, how many times it's been supercharged, all of that. Unless it is a reputable company and you can trace the history of that battery, what vehicle did it come out of, what was the mileage on that car, what kind of use was it engaged in, I would probably stay away from anything on eBay.
Right.
The Tesla option is a good one. It's, of course, the EV batteries are a disproportionate cost compared to an internal combustion engine car, where you distribute expensive items across a number of various components like engine and transmission, and whereas in an EV you have one large, very expensive component, and that is the battery, which is a majority of the car. The Tesla 90 kW version is actually reportedly a pretty good option. It's expensive, $21,000.
Right.
The cars oftentimes are only worth $25,000 or $30,000.
So it's like buying a whole new car.
Yes, but again, if someone's attached to their Model S,
Right.
that seems like a good option for an owner. It can be installed either at a service center, all the Tesla service centers, or we do it in our shop as well.
Right. And I think we also had customers gone the route of buying a car in an auction and taking the battery from that vehicle and putting into their car, which also runs the risk of potentially battery not being well or having saltwater damage, because auctions don't really specify on what the actual issue is, correct?
Right. When we were buying auction cars, the history is not revealed until we hacked into the MCU. Okay. And with flood damage cars, for example, the electronics shut down. So the owner cannot remove all of their personal information. Generally, we would go in, find out the personal information, contact the original owner, send them whatever personal items they may have forgotten in the car. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes, we would get an extra set of keys, and we were able to establish some history. But it was always after the fact, unfortunately.
It was always off, yeah. Mr. Jim Rustler 212 says, I do still consider the 90 kW a good option, mainly to keep my car as I have free supercharging, but upgrading to anything from my 60 kilowatt would be a massive upgrade.
The massive upgrade, I'm not sure I'm following.
So I'm assuming he has a 60 kilowatt right now, and he wants to, and the only option Tesla is giving him is a 90 kilowatt battery, which is a $21,000
Oh,
cost.
I see. Okay, it's the only option, yes.
Right.
You know, from Tesla's viewpoint, or any manufacturer for that matter, limiting the variations in a product makes much more sense from an economic standpoint. And since it's already an extraordinarily expensive product, it makes more sense for them to only limit it to one size.
Okay.
The other thing that we need to insert here is, and we've talked to Tesla Corporate about this, these battery packs are not rich in margin and profit. Tesla considers service as a cost center. They don't consider it as a profit center and build margin into their activities at the service center. So these batteries are essentially being passed on at cost.
Right.
What will reduce that cost as time goes by is the mass production of cells as that continues to increase, and eventually scale of economies improve, and these battery packs in EVs should become more proportionate to the value of the vehicle. One other thing that we spoke about is the value of the vehicles. The tables or the depreciation tables currently being used are from the internal combustion engine world, where mileage and age definitely affect the value of the car. In an EV, that's just not the same. So right now, the older Model S's are actually a bargain because the devaluation tables are incorrect for that type of car. There's very little wear and tear on a Model S
Right.
other than the battery.
Okay.
Eventually, people will catch on to that, and the values of these used EVs will remain higher than an equal ICE car of the same age.
And so now with him having free supercharging, I think every Model S owner probably asks the same question. So once they do a battery change, let's say for instance, his will be from a 60 to a 90, will that free supercharging still stay in place, or does that, I mean, or let's say they were to bring us the
Sure.
12 volt, the high voltage battery, and we were to change it out for them, does that prevent from the free supercharging, or does that interfere with it, or is it left alone?
Well, Tesla can move the goalposts anytime they want.
Okay.
They own superchargers. They did make a commitment that certain cars would be grandfathered. At this point, they are honoring that commitment.
Okay. So there's no way that it can be taken away unless they choose to, unless Tesla
Exactly, yes.
chooses to take
And
that
so
away
far,
from
they
them.
have not.
Okay. Okay. All right, guys, just any questions? Please feel
So-
free to ask.
Continuing with the Roadster parts then, we were talking about the parts that cannot be reused. All the major assembly, the modules, the electronic modules, can be reused from a parts car, basically, and they cannot easily be recreated. We checked into this, trying to recreate the three-phase inverter that sits in a Tesla Roadster, the PEM or power electronics module, is a very expensive proposition. There's a company in Taiwan that was originally making those, and in order to restart the production lines for that product would have been about $2 million. So the good news about these major assemblies, electronic assemblies in a Roadster, is they are rebuildable. We started looking into the HVAC controllers, found out that the original vendor could reproduce them, but not in the quantities that we're looking for, which is, again, a major problem. Tesla had a hard time when they were trying to find vendors to build or to get product for 2,400 cars. It's a very small run. Today, we're coming along and asking for far less quantities to resupply parts. So, again, though, the electronics in a Roadster are rebuildable and can be refurbished and repaired.
So in order to get these parts for a Roadster, it would either be an enormous quantity that we probably don't need,
Sure.
or putting in an amount that we don't have.
Right. I mean, if you order, tens of thousands of anything, you amortize the cost of engineering time and setup time and production costs across a much larger group of products, and it brings the price down. When you do small runs, the mats, for example, that we ordered, I think, 10 or 20 sets, and that was remarkable that they were willing to recreate those. The condenser assemblies, the same thing, we ordered 2 or 3 dozen of those. But yeah, that's always going to be a challenge, and that's one of the reasons that Tesla has outsourced some of that sourcing to us.
Got it. We do have a question here from Steve Simpson. What is the expected range of the new Tesla Roadster battery?
The range, the goal was 400 miles. It's a 80 kW per hour pack compared to the 53 kW per hour, which when it was new was a 240 mile pack.
Oh, wow. Okay. So going back to the outsourcing, so Tesla, I mean, now they're obviously in a good position financially, right? I'm assuming they are. So how come they haven't gone back to their old vendors, or at least try to source them out themselves, or try to get parts from them to be able to keep these Roadsters alive or keep these Roadsters on the road?
Well, they're doing that in conjunction with what we're doing.
Okay.
And actually, the bulk of the resupplying of parts is being handled by them.
Okay.
They found it to be more expedient, though, and cost-effective to do buyback programs with Roadsters at this point. As we pointed out yesterday, by the way, it's a unprecedented act of generosity on Tesla's part to buy back their own cars to supply parts to their legacy customers. And as I pointed out, how many internal combustion engine auto manufacturers are buying back their cars to continue to supply parts? Well, that's zero.
Zero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the critical power world, UPS vendors do the same thing. And what they end up doing is once something reaches end of life, they simply tell customers, we can't service it anymore. We have no parts. We won't have parts available for it anymore. Your only option is to upgrade and change out that old beast. Fortunately, Tesla has not done that with their legacy first-generation cars. And my own personal opinion is there's a lot of support within corporate Tesla and a lot of nostalgia surrounding this first-generation car. So we're grateful that they're hanging in there and continuing to support the vehicle for the community. So we spoke about the 3.0 battery pack that Tesla has announced for the Tesla Roadster. In 2018, it was a ill-fated attempt to get a replacement battery pack for Roadsters. And that was around the 10-year mark, if you think about it, because Tesla Roadsters were released in 2008. And as J.B. Strobel pointed out, the original design life of the Tesla Roadster battery pack was 10 years. So they were fully expecting the demise of the battery packs and idle cars. It turns out that because of design problems, the original 3.0 battery pack was unsuccessful. They stopped production. And by summer of last year, those of us in the Roadster repair business were becoming greatly concerned about the future of the Roadsters. We had a lot of customers that had idled cars, bricked cars, permanently bricked, and with no solution in sight. So Tesla, in fall of last year, began to cautiously release a new 3.0 battery pack. We don't have much detail about where the cells are coming from. What we do know is that they're 18650 cells, which, because of the geometry required in the Roadster, is the only cell that really will fit, safely at least. The other part of that is the components around the cells, like the clamshells that hold the cells into the sheets, are designed for the 18650, not the 21700. So the 3.0 pack appears to have been successful because they have installed a number of them. They initially were servicing the customers that had prepaid their battery pack.
Okay.
The second layer they went into was the customers that had paid for extended warranty. Now, at this point, Tesla could have simply shut down the program and said, we're hand building these. It's not much fun, and we're going to stop making these batteries because we've satisfied our legal obligations to the customers that have prepaid. Instead, they began to offer these battery packs to customers that were on the list, the waiting list, back in 2018, which indicates to us that this program will continue.
Did you sign up for that 3.0 battery pack?
I did in a roundabout way. The Chicago Blue car we bought,
Yeah.
the second to last Roadster, production
Yes.
Roadster built, sorry, I got to get that right?
Yes.
Was slated for one of those battery packs.
Okay.
And I asked Matt Cron at the time, can you put our name in the hopper when something materializes? So I'm expecting a call from Tesla at any point because they're reaching out to people that were on that list, and we'll put Chicago Blue back on the road. By the way, Chicago Blue is a 7,000-mile pristine Roadster that was sitting in a Ferrari dealership all its life. It was owned by Continental Auto Group, the second largest Ferrari dealer in the United States. And the staff there neglected to charge the car properly, and eventually it bricked. And the car was sitting there for about 6 months or so, ready to come out for a recovery. And the owner was distracted. So finally, when we got a hold of her, She said, you know what, I'm going to sell this car to Tesla. I just don't want to mess with it.
Right.
And at that time, it wasn't common knowledge why Tesla was buying the cars, and we're under NDA, so we couldn't say anything. So I knew what was going to happen to this pristine, low mileage, one of last built roadsters, and we bought it and rescued it, basically. So we're expecting Tesla to reach out to us, and we'll put a 3.0 battery pack in that car.
How
Put it back on the
exciting would
road,
that
yeah.
be? And it's a beautiful car, amazing car.
We actually used it as a test mule, if you remember.
Yes.
During the dark days when there was no clear solution in sight for Tesla Roadster battery packs, we began to experiment with repairing sheets that were beyond repair.
Correct.
By
yeah.
snipping more cells than was recommended, with the expectation that we would then run on reduced power, and at least a Roadster owner that was faced with having a boat anchor that couldn't drive anywhere in their garage, or having one that was on limited power, could at least get around town until a solution presented itself. And so Chicago Blue became a test mule for a while, and we were able to prove that you can cut more than 4 cells in
Yeah.
a brick.
I think that's the most common thing with these Roadster owners is they forget that these cars need charging. Like they need to be plugged in at all times. And I think for most of these Roadster owners, either they have them in their garage because they don't really drive it, or because they don't live where their car is located. So
Yeah.
they forget that these cars need constant charging and need to be plugged in, or else they just die. They just
Well,
die.
the Roadster also has a death alert, which is that little beep noise. And the problem is, if they're on vacation, they don't hear it.
Right.
Or, as we just recently had with a customer in one of the Four Seasons states, he had his car in the garage. It was winter time. He wasn't driving it. And but the garage was far enough away from where the rest of the family was. They didn't hear the Roadster complaining for about a month or so that it was on its
Ouch.
last legs.
Yeah.
And it became bricked.
How long does it, so that beeping sound, how long does it, is it for until it completely like dies out? Is there like a time that you can expect for that beeping to go off, or
It's usually about a month.
a month? Okay.
Yeah.
A month, and then it just,
It gets down to 0 miles range, and it begins to beep before then. And if the owner's paying attention, they can open the charge port door and start charging again. But once it goes dead, then the only option then is recovery, like we do here.
okay. And then at what mileage does the beeping start? Where does the car start panicking? Like the car starts saying like, hey, I need charge.
It's a good question. We'll have to look. I think it's close to 0, though.
Okay, so about like maybe 10 miles.
Oh, less than that, yeah. I
Less than
think
that,
right at
okay.
about 0 is when it starts the
And
beeping.
At that point, is there still damage that happens to the battery pack once it gets that low, and like let's say the beeping starts happening and the owner can charge it, and the charging does
Right.
continue? Is there any damage that happens to the battery pack because it went down at such a low state?
Not that we found. If we can get the car, once it goes to 0 miles and it will no longer accept a charge from the charge port door, and we can get that car within 60 days, it's a level 1 recovery, which for us means that we don't even open the battery pack. We simply do a string charge across all of the sheets, and the car comes back to life. We take it up to a certain level, and then it'll accept the charge again from the Tesla charge port door. And the Tesla battery management system is very sophisticated in a Roadster. Once it takes over, starts balancing the cells, a level 1 recovery usually results in 100% recovery and back to the original range that
The
the car
original
had.
range. Okay.
It's when it's more than 60 days or 90 days that
the
we
range.
begin to, we get to a point where we have to open the pack, and oftentimes we find resistive cells, parasitic cells, that will need to be removed from the circuit.
Okay. Mr. Faison Lap 4 says, nice sunglasses. It must be too sunny in the studio there. Let me grab mine too. He also did mention yoke steering wheel is death alert too.
Oh, okay. It sounds like he doesn't like the yoke steering wheel. By the way, my sunglasses, I'm not going to tell the viewers why I wear them, but we plan on doing a video at some point in time, once our subscriber base is huge, because the whole world is fascinated about why I
you
wear
wear
sunglasses.
sunglasses?
And I get the funniest comments, like we were doing a video one time, and one of the comments was, "He sure moves fast for a blind man."
Oh my God. Yes, yes. It would be interesting to see you without sunglasses.
It would be, yes. See, the staff here hasn't even seen me
Yeah,
without
I haven't even
sunglasses,
seen
so
without
why are you guys
sunglasses.
asking, right?
Keith Holt says, I'm
So
interested.
wait a minute, the second part of his question was?
So no, he just said yoke steering wheel
Oh, the
is
yoke steering wheel,
death
yeah.
alert too.
You know, it's, we get a variety of responses to that yoke steering wheel.
And what exactly is yoke steering wheel? Because I
In the Plaid, the new Tesla Model S Plaid.
Okay.
Instead of a round wheel.
Okay.
They've gone to something that comes out of a Formula
oh
One
yes,
car.
yes, yes. I've seen that.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Okay.
And the counter arguments are, people are used to having their hands at
Like 10 and
10
2.
and yeah. And what do you do if you're doing parallel parking where you're spinning your wheel? In a Formula One car, you have a much shorter turning radius than you do in
Right.
a passenger vehicle. And we get, it's a kind of interesting. I think that one of the viewers summed it up best, which is that we fear the unknown. We're not used
Right.
to it yet.
Right.
And eventually, I think the focus will get off the wheel onto the other attributes in that Tesla Plaid.
Right.
Which is really awesome, an awesome car, and there's a lot of new stuff in that car that isn't even being talked about yet.
Right. And I think also, at that point, I think that's where the whole parallel parking button will start being used constantly. Because I think even my car has it, and my car has a regular steering
Right.
wheel. And, you can just press a little button, and it'll just park your car. So I think, that would be the clue or the solution to that, to that steering wheel. It's just click the button, and it'll park it on itself.
I think one of the things we pointed out in that yoke video that we did is that the steering wheel has been around for 100 years. The design hasn't changed. Tesla doesn't make the steering wheel, neither
Okay.
does GM or Ford. They go to aftermarket vendors that are providing these products and the
Okay.
stalks and all the rest of it.
Right.
But Tesla is very good at disrupting our expectations. And this, again, is indicative of the kind of company that they are.
Right.
They're moving us into a different reality.
We do have Mr. Keith Holt here saying, I'm interested in a used Model S. What do I look for to judge battery life?
That's a tough one. Tesla at the service center level will not give information about the battery. And I don't really know of any solution for a customer other than looking at the range on a battery.
Right. I think most of our Model S's that do come in for battery work is because they've seen major declining on the range. So I think I'm sure there's a way of pulling up a history of range in the vehicle. I mean,
Well,
similar
there
to like
is,
a
yeah.
log file, right?
Yeah,
To a
it's-
Roadster.
There are log files in Model S's, X's, 3s,
Okay.
and Ys, so that's available. However, I think we just hit on an excellent aftermarket opportunity for someone to create a software package, independent, third-party, that will give detailed information about EV batteries,
Right.
so that a potential buyer can make an informed decision.
Like how we are able to analyze the CAC on a Roadster or the health of the battery. I think that's something similar that we can do for a Model S at some point as well, to be able to really diagnose the battery and see what's going on as far as the health or the range of it, everything in that aspect.
Absolutely. Anybody buying a vehicle, that would be valuable information
Yeah.
for them. One of the things that we do with the Roadsters is we recommend that the seller gets a log file
Right.
that they can present along with their car to a prospective buyer. It tells them an enormous amount of detail about what's going on under the hood. It looks for trends, history, because it goes back years.
Yeah.
And it's a valuable chunk of information when
Yeah,
buying
it's
a
like
vehicle.
when you go to a doctor, pull out all your
Yeah.
medical records, all
Right.
your medical records. So that's what we do. We make sure all the medical records are good and there's no concerns or alerts that we need to notify you about as a new owner of the Roadster. We do have Dwight Wiecki. I do apologize if I ruined your name. Will your company work on FSD equipment once it becomes common usage?
Yes, we work on all the electronics and all of the Tesla platforms, and we have the ability and software to work at that level. What we're not doing is designing product like this. We leave that to Tesla.
Okay. Mr.
Again, an aftermarket opportunity. Eventually,
There's so many opportunities here,
there
guys.
will be.
Take
Well,
it.
yeah, we're business people. We're always looking for where's the future gold. Developing third-party solutions,
Yeah.
applications, enhancements.
And I think that's something that, requires someone who's really dedicated in what, in this kind of work,
And that has very deep pockets because the R&D
Right,
time for
it's-
something, for a project like
it's
that
time
is steep.
consuming.
Yeah.
It's time consuming, and it's a lot of investment. And I'm assuming material. I mean, I don't know what kind of material it's used to go into this stuff, but I'm pretty sure it's expensive. I'm pretty sure it's not cheap.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Oh, thank you, Dwight. I thought I butchered your last name, but I didn't. Thanks. So Faizan said, let's give a 1,000 horsepower car to people and remove the driver control over the 1,000 horses by 65% by cutting steering wheel control to half. It would be a great idea.
That's the he's.
I think he's got this down
Yeah.
on math. So yeah, we should. Yeah, I think that would be a good idea. So it looks like we're.
I think that's it.
Yeah, I think that's all the questions so far. I do see people trickling in. So if you just started hopping onto the podcast, we're just doing Q&A. So any questions that you want us to answer, doesn't matter what it is, about Tesla, Roadsters, anything you guys would like to know, just go ahead and comment, and I will be more than happy to ask that, and hopefully we'll give you guys an answer. We are recapping for yesterday's podcast. We did do a podcast yesterday. We touched base on Roadster parts and the R80 pack. Not sure if you guys want us to go ahead and go more in depth with that. We can do so as well.
What we talked about yesterday also was the buying a used Tesla. What are the risks?
Right.
And I think one question that came up is, what year should I stay away from? The interesting thing about Tesla is that the first release of the Model S had some design issues. The things like the door handles, and we held this up yesterday. The gear pawl, the design has been improved.
Okay.
The window regulators, the ferrule went from plastic to billet aluminum. When you're buying a used Tesla, the majority of design problems were flushed out during the warranty period. The door handles, for example, are much improved design nowadays. The singing drivetrain, those were replaced. So a lot of the original problems now have been resolved with a new product going into the cars, and with an 8-year drivetrain warranty, almost all of the problems are flushed out. So there's really very little risk in buying an older Tesla in that there's no expectation of continued design flaws in those.
Okay.
The battery, of course, is the major issue, and the question always comes up, how long will these batteries last? Well, expectations, of course, at this point are still being written, basically. The book's being written on the battery longevity because they haven't been out long enough yet for us to get a feel. The Roadster is a perfect example of a mass cell EV. 6,831 18650 lithium-ion cells in that 1,000-pound battery pack. Original life expectancy 10 years, pushing 13 years, and still going strong. We just listed a Tesla Roadster this morning in Hawaii, and it charges in ideal mode or standard range to 187 miles. which is remarkable for a battery that is, over 10 years old. In fact, it's 13 years old. This is a 2008.
Oh, wow.
The expectation is that the later platform, like the Model S, will have the same kind of battery life because they're also 18650 cells, and it's a very similar design to the Roadster battery.
Okay.
The cell problems that we're seeing in the 2012s and 2013s are very limited, small quantity, and they're usually aberrations. It's not the norm. Now, that doesn't mean that that won't happen at some point in time. There will be a mass cell failure, like lemmings going into the sea, but it hasn't happened yet.
Okay. But it will. It's expected.
Well, eventually, these
Expected,
batteries are
okay.
not designed to last forever.
Okay.
Although the newer cells coming out, I hear anyway, are supposed to have a longer lifespan. They're talking about million-mile cars these days, which is pretty exciting.
So I do a few questions that trickled in. Lubo Kaskak? Sorry. So sorry if I messed it up. Says, do you plan to have a chat with Elon Musk in person?
Well, I spoke to Elon a couple of years ago about the Tesla Roadster issues, and we were talking about the scarcity of parts. Turns out that he had flown to France to a company called Sotira to coax them into treating Tesla a bit better regarding lead times for body panels, fenders, and such. And what he shared with me back then is, he says, most people think I don't like the Tesla Roadster. The community definitely felt that way at the time. He said, that's simply not the case. He said, the problem is I have 560,000 other cars to worry about, and solving Roadster problems doesn't move the needle.
Right.
And, we get that. At that time, Tesla didn't have their financial strength that they have now. They were barely surviving. The Model 3, again, pushed them to the verge of bankruptcy. So I'm sure that Elon had a whole bunch of other things on his mind than the 2,000 or 2,400 Roadster customers. But again, if you look at it today, the support for Roadster is unprecedented compared to any other car manufacturer. And what we need to do is make sure that Tesla realize we are grateful for that support. So when you're at your service center, congratulate them on the continuing support.
Yes.
Give them a hard time about the SXY or
Right.
whatever else, but with the Roadster, make sure that you tell them how happy you are with how they're treating us.
And we get the common question. T. Lloyd did ask, will you ever franchise or add other states in other sites in other cities, other states? I
Right.
apologize.
It is a question that comes every day. We haven't had it today yet, but can we scale? The real answer to that is we're not the only ones on the planet that can do this type of work. Right now we happen to have some very specialized skills in the area of battery recovery, finding parasitic cells, isolating cells, and coming from the electronics world, working on the electronics and especially the Tesla Roadster, and keeping the old legacy parts no longer in production alive. But eventually other companies are going to come into this space. There are a lot of backyard mechanics currently, quite capable of doing low-tech mechanical work on Tesla Roadsters, Tesla Model S's, all the platforms. We talked about this yesterday a bit. This gear pawl, for example, goes bad in a Tesla Model S door handle. If you take it to a service center, they're going to change the entire door handle assembly. They'll dig in your door and change the assembly, which of course costs a lot more than someone digging in, pulling out the assembly and repairing it. That type of repair is fairly simple to do for anyone that has any mechanical aptitude.
Right.
There was a battery that was repaired by Rich Rebuilds, his team, and it was a plumbing problem. Customer in a Model 3 ran over something, busted a plastic nipple that sends cooling through the battery. They actually put a sleeve in it with a nipple and were able to get that car running again. The difference in cost was $16,000 versus $700.
It's a huge difference.
So you can see why independent maintenance is vital and will eventually proliferate and be commonplace.
But we are the only company that does what we do as far as the roadsters, the batteries, the PEMs. I mean, I haven't heard of another company doing the kind of work in a PEM that we do.
There's a certain skill involved in working in electronics at that level, and the type of battery, the battery recoveries that we do on the Model S's, for example.
Correct.
Eventually, people are going to figure out what we're doing, how we do it, and
I mean, just
it'll
like
be
anything
commonplace.
else. I mean,
Yeah.
everything, it starts from some place or somebody starts it off. And then next, everybody goes in pursuit, follows in
Yeah.
pursuit, and then starts to learn the way we do things and venture out. Yeah.
So the original question was, do we have plans to scale? Well, we're expanding in Phoenix right now. We're tripling the size of our building. Gruber Motor Company is currently bursting at the seams.
Yes.
We have plenty of staff, but we need more physical space to do what we're doing. We need more lifts. We've got such an influx of business that is
Correct.
continuing. So scaling into other parts of the world, I think that once we get our processes matured and we have a franchise package, it will happen fairly quickly. At this point, we're not ready yet. There are companies.
If you were to franchise somewhere else, what would it be? Like if you had the option, the choice was all yours.
We had a offer in Switzerland, and
Switzerland,
I'm from that area, actually Bavaria, but I would love to open a shop there.
Well, I do have my passport, Pete. So if you
There
want to
you
send
go.
me over there, I'll be more than happy to go.
Yeah, well, more than likely, our scaling will have to do with picking high-density areas, the major cities, Los
Yeah.
Angeles, Chicago, New York, or creating franchise opportunities and using the procedures that we have and protocols and basically selling those to companies as a franchise or on a
Right.
franchise basis.
Okay.
By the way, staying with that subject for a moment, independent maintenance like ours is a vital ingredient in the ability to continue to service EVs. The disruption is happening so rapidly, the adoption is happening so rapidly, that none of the EV manufacturers are going to be able to develop service capability quickly enough to match their production capacity. The obvious answer is outsourcing to companies that have the skills or that can be trained to get the skills. And eventually Tesla is going to do what they did with body shops. They're going to have a training program. They're going to outfit them with tools, equipment, and begin to outsource service because their service centers are already somewhat overloaded. And to maintain customer service, it's going to be vital that they create more capacity at the
capacity.
service delivery level.
We do have a few questions that we've kind of skipped over here. Mr. Dwight did ask, does the yoke steering wheel use CAN bus type connectivity? Does the yoke steering
Oh, is it a
wheel
CAN device?
CAN bus type connectivity?
We have not had a Model S Plaid come in our shop yet.
Okay.
So we haven't had a chance to reverse engineer it. So I would suggest looking at social media or Googling it to find that type of information.
Okay. Let's see. Jacob Peterson says the yoke steering wheel and lack of stalks almost seems like it is designed to retract flush against the dash. Any thoughts of if it will have the adjustment range to sit against the dash?
It's probably a good design question for Tesla.
Yeah. Let's see here. Awkward J, problem. Lack of easily replicable, low-cost, removable battery. This would seem to be an opportunity for a third party if the tech is there to produce. Is anyone even considering creating this? So, yeah, I mean, we're thinking the same thing. I mean, I would hope somebody does, right?
2 years ago or so, at a Tesla shareholder meeting, up on stage, Elon was standing up there. They wheeled in or drove in a Tesla Model S on stage, and within 3 minutes or so replaced that battery. There was a lot of magic happening below that stage,
Right.
which was invisible to the rest of us.
course.
But within about 3 minutes or so, there was a replacement battery inside that Model S. And at that time, Tesla was considering doing battery swaps
Okay.
instead of the supercharging that they're doing now. One can only guess as to why that program didn't go very far. There are other EV manufacturers that are also pursuing the battery swap versus the supercharging method. only the people that are doing the numbers can answer why that is not being pursued as aggressively as it appears on a surface it should be.
Okay.
First of all, it's a 1,200-pound battery pack.
Yeah, it's a huge battery pack.
Yeah.
I mean, we see it in the shop, all the time, and I'm just like, wow. I mean, I think it takes us 2 or 3 guys for that battery drop to happen. It's huge.
Yeah, and then you have all of this hardware that, holds it
Yes.
under there. Again, I envision underneath that stage where Elon was, there must have been a pit crew of 20
Yes, at
underneath there.
least 20,
And they were
'cause-
Formula One trained,
Yes, because that battery is huge and it's heavy. It's ridiculous. Okay, so we do have here. Let's see, and I do apologize if I do skip over some of you guys. So how well does Jacob Peterson did ask, how well have this self-uses been holding up in the Model S pack? Seems like the performance models would stress those links more.
I don't think there's a correlation between failure and size of battery that I'm aware of, at
Okay,
least.
so everything is pretty much the same as opposed to
Yeah.
performance-wise.
We did talk about the supercharging risks.
Yes.
In that a steady diet of supercharging, theoretically at least, degrades the cells.
Okay, so constant charging, definitely avoid. Supercharging, right?
Supercharging. It's the slow charging. It's kind of like barbecue.
Right.
Slow is much better than fast.
Exactly. Okay. Let's see here. Steve Simpson did ask what the cost of the new Roadster battery pack is and what can you offer as an alternative?
There is no alternative to Tesla's solution at this moment. There are some backyard mechanics that are experimenting, innovating, and developing some product. But none of it is commercially viable yet, or there's no order processing for that yet. Tesla's battery pack cost, the 3.0 replacement battery pack, is $29,000 plus tax. And Tesla is, again, stating that this is a cost, which we've done the spreadsheets. I'm surprised it's 29. We came up with numbers higher than that because it's hand assembly. And remember, you have 6,831 cells that you have to connect inside an ESS pack, times 2 because you have wire bonding on both sides of the battery.
Wow.
It's an enormous amount of labor. Back in the day, Tesla had a team of over 40 people making battery packs for the Roadster. And we talked about this yesterday. Inserting robotics in this process is not cost effective. The cost of the robotics far outweighs the return on investment for the number of battery packs that need to be swapped out.
Got
It's
it.
about a $60 to $80 million project.
How much?
$60 to $80 million to
Oh,
replace
wow.
ESS packs in 2,000 Roadsters. Figure $30,000, times 2,000.
So, Mr. Christopher Chun. So, I think if people who know you from before may have certain questions or
Yeah, some of these names sound familiar.
yeah.
Like Steve Simon, for example.
His question is this the dude whose factory caught on fire?
It is. We're I'm the dude whose factory caught on fire. It was May 5th of 2017. It was my daughter's birthday. That's how I remember that date. And a short story. There are no books written on how to do battery recovery on Tesla Roadsters or EVs in general. We had received a Roadster battery pack from Hawaii. It was hard bricked. We were experimenting. We were charging it too aggressively, and it looked like it was coming back to life. By Friday morning, we heard a ticking noise coming out of the battery. And it was subdued, but it was perceptible. So we took the charger off. We let it sit there the rest of the day, and the ticking continued. By about 4 o'clock or so, I came over to the building, and I said, why don't we wheel this outside, because we have no idea what the ticking is.
Right.
So we started to wheel it out. It happened to be a 114-degree day that day. The ESS pack is flat black paint in a 1,000-pound pack, and it was full sun outside in the parking lot behind our building. As we started to push it out, I thought, it's just going to bake this
Right.
this case. And since we don't know what it is, let's leave it by the door and wait to see what happens. Well, by 5 minutes to 5 or so, I was already gone. They came back over to the building, and there was a 8-inch flame shooting out the front of the battery pack. One of the people that looked at it is an engineer, and it was more important at that point to collect data and take pictures of what was going on than to get 911, get a forklift, push that out into the parking lot.
Yes.
By the time the forklift arrived, there was a 8 to 10 foot flame shooting out the top of the battery pack. We all know who that was, right?
Yes,
All right,
yes,
okay.
yes.
And of course, we had a 16-foot ceiling, and it was wood. And by the time the Phoenix Fire Department showed up, which was about 10 minutes after after it was called in, they tried water, they tried foam, they tried CO2, and finally gave up and said, you know, we can't
Just
get a
gonna
hold
let
of
it burn.
Tesla. We don't know what's going on here. We're just going to back away and let this thing go. So we had 7 Tesla Roadsters in that building, no customer cars, thank God. They all were our cars. And so we lost 7 Tesla Roadsters, a 2008 ACR Viper with a full tank of gas, a T0, one of 3, the only functioning T0 on the planet, which was the genesis of Tesla, in that it was the test mule and the car that the Roadster was patterned after. In fact, for a while, Tesla used AC Propulsion's drivetrain, which was in the T0. So we lost the T0, and we had a Model S up on a lift, which melted. It's aluminum. There were gobs of aluminum down on the floor, and the car had melted fundamentally because of the intense heat. So we had, I think, 4 battery packs in there, 7 Roadsters, a bunch of, lithium-ion packs. And for 3.5 hours, we stood out there waiting for the fire to die down. And there were 45 fire trucks. It was a 4-alarm fire, a hazmat team. There were another 30 fire trucks waiting on 7th and Deer Valley in a parking lot to deploy, and 150 boots on the ground.
Oh, my God.
The concerns were that a lithium-ion cloud might migrate into
Got it.
residential neighborhoods. There was an enormous amount of ignorance regarding lithium-ion fires, which, by the way, has all changed. We were actually the start of a nationwide fire training type initiative
Okay.
to learn how to deal with EV fires.
Okay.
We went into a temporary facility for a year. We found a building to the south of us, twice the size, 3 times the size, built it again, and just like Thomas Edison, we basically said, okay, now we've learned what not
Right.
to do,
And
and we reemerged, and we're back stronger than ever.
Yes, so no burning buildings for us from now on. No. Let's see here. So,
Real quick,
Yeah.
if you want to read through these and pick a couple more, we are almost at an hour.
Okay.
okay. So it looks like we only have time for maybe 1 or 2 questions here. I wonder if Elon can create a portable generator battery that can charge your car while in motion.
Oh, the T0 that we just talked about?
Yes.
It had a tow-behind Kawasaki generator, and back then, there were no charging stations. So when you ran out of fuel with this, or you ran out of electricity with this T0, there wasn't any place you could go to get a charge other than a 110 outlet, which was extremely slow. So in order to do long-distance travel, this car actually had a Kawasaki generator behind that it towed, and when your battery juice ran out, the generator would keep the
Will
car
kick
running.
in.
Of course, you've just defeated all of your sustainable energy initiatives, and and you're spewing hydrocarbons with a 2-cycle engine, basically,
Right.
into the air again.
So do you think that's something that will be implemented in any of the newer models or anything that?
I don't think so. I think that the future is going to be high-density solar, whether
Okay.
that's paint. There's a lot of surface area on a car, and if we can get enough energy packed into that little space, then having a fully autonomous car in terms of energy use would be the ideal thing. And, with the way technology has been changing, I don't discount anything anymore.
Okay. All right. So we have time for one more question.
Yeah, it looks like the newer ones, Mitch is asking.
Okay, so Mitch Gregory, what do you think the serviceability of the upcoming structural batteries will be like? Do you think they will be unserviceable?
I don't think Tesla will ever make anything unserviceable. There's really no rhyme or logic behind it because they need to service it as well.
Okay.
For us, we reverse engineer, and anything that was put together can be taken apart. It can be reverse engineered, and when the time comes, we'll figure out how to do that. And it's usually, in our world, post-warranty. We don't see a lot of warranty work because they obviously go to the dealer or to the manufacturer or the service centers to get something done for free.
Right. Okay. And then Jim Rustler, 212, what do you think about adding small solar panel on Model S to charge 12-volt battery or even trickle charge main battery? Didn't somebody do that? Didn't somebody put solar on their Roadster and took a picture of it?
They did. We had a professor at ASU that
Okay.
took the passenger seat out of his Tesla Roadster,
That's
very
right.
orange.
Yes.
He put a large steel structure or pipe instead of the seat, and then had an array that basically fanned out with solar panels.
It's like a flower.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. He used to take that to shows, and it was a mind blower because it changed everyone's perception about what's going on with these cars.
Okay.
Can it be cost effectively done at this point? Again, it gets back to surface area questions. The 12-volt question regarding charging that, there's a DC to DC converter in the Teslas, even in the Roadster, which siphons energy from the main battery pack, which does a very good job of keeping that battery charged.
Okay.
And the reason for the 12-volt battery, by the way, is no one's making 400-volt headlights, audio equipment, door locks, everything else in a Tesla is low voltage 12 volts. There's an argument, why isn't it 48 volts? But for now, at least, there's so much product out there that's 12 volt. They're going to stick with that for a while.
Okay. We do have Jesse O'Brien. Quick question. After the incident, did you get a lithium fire blanket to safely isolate the lithium fire battery for hours until it can be flooded and extinguished?
We did not. We were considering, though, building a swimming pool, essentially a vat, and all of our battery work would take place over that vat, and you just simply
Submerge
dump
it.
it into the water, which is one way to extinguish a lithium-ion fire. What we've done instead is develop procedures that are far more sensible than what we were doing back in the cowboy days.
Right. Okay. So it looks like that is all of our questions, and I don't think we have any more time, correct? So thank you guys for tuning in. I believe we're going to be doing this every Tuesday,
Every
correct?
Tuesday at 10 a.m.,
Okay.
we will advertise it. If you missed the podcast, they will be available on our YouTube channel. You can review them at any point in time. And again, check out our website as well. Much of
Yes.
what we talked about is on the website. We didn't realize that people were not aware as much as we thought they were. So we would, again, like to thank you, and it's our job to keep you informed regarding Tesla at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.